welcome everyone to tonight's program. This is a new program for us. For the first time this year, we're doing a fall program specifically for juniors to help continue that conversation that we started having last spring. If you were here last March, we had a 9-10 program to start to help students and parents gain that basic understanding of the college search process and how it looks today. And we had a guest speaker that came to talk about different strategies that you might want to use to start to identify what the word fit means. The goal of tonight's program is to further that conversation by giving you some updates on where we are right now in the college process, in your world for 11th grade, and also give you some tips as well as some hopefully helpful advice that you can use over the next couple of months before we really kick things off in the second half of the year, with the search process. And so our goal is to have you out in about an hour or so, and we'll certainly save time at the end, for questions as well as throughout the presentation. Okay, does that sound good? Okay, very good. So for those of you who might be new to Sandy Spring or just might not have had the chance to meet or interact with the College Counseling Office, I'd like to take this time to introduce us. My name is Chris Miller. I'm the Director of College Counseling here at Sandy Spring Friends School. To my left, in the matching wine-colored dress here, which was not intentional by any stretch of the imagination, is Candace Ashton, the Associate Director of College Counseling. And you'll hear us say this probably more times than not. The person who really makes the ship run is Meredith Schenkel, the registrar of the program. And clearly, her reputation precedes her, because you notice how when I introduced me and Candace, no one really clapped. But as soon as said Meredith, it's like, oh yes, Meredith. We love Meredith. So you'll hear us throughout the course of the year talk about our different roles in the office and the different ways in which we will support you. We have a brief slideshow. Know that we will share the slideshow with you in a follow-up email that should get to your inbox sometime within the next week or week and a half or so, as well as a link to be able to access the video. So if you feel like you might have missed something, don't worry about it, because there'll be plenty of opportunities to get it in another shape, form, or fashion. Okay? So the basic agenda for tonight is to really just give you an overview of, as of October 2nd, 2019, where should you be now? What are some of the things that you can do to really start to move the needle on the college search process? We'll also just talk about just planning for the fall, what you have to expect. Hopefully, students, many of you have already started to poke around Maya Learning and what that is. We'll also go into a little more detail about how you can use Maya Learning as a resource to help you with your college search process. And then we'll just talk about what's next, give you an idea of some major programs out of your calendar and just things that you should be thinking about for the future. Okay? Okay, very good. So, one thing to understand is that when it comes to this idea of thinking about life after Sandy Spring Friends School, something that's always good to realize is that every one of you are probably at a very different place right now, and it is okay. And I'm sure that some of you have probably been thinking since the lower school about what's going to happen after Sandy Spring, what college you're going to go to, what career you're going to pursue in life, and that's okay too. Today might be the first day that you thought to yourself, oh, is there life after Sandy Spring Friends? And do I have to engage in that? And you just might not be ready for that conversation. And by sheer force of will, you were probably politely coaxed by your parents who said, this is important, you might want to go. And that's okay too. One of the things that we pride ourselves on in this office is that we will meet you where you are and help you to get to where you need to be. And so, so just know that wherever you might be on this wide spectrum of post-secondary planning, life after Sandy Spring, what college you might want to go to, it is okay to be at a different point, from your friends or other family members who might be going through the same process right now. One of the things that that is really most important, and you've heard us say this before, and we will continue to say it, is that when it comes to thinking about what comes after Sandy Spring, even though that is in the future, a lot of that depends on what's happening in the present. And and one of the most important things that you can and should be doing is to be engaged, in the life of the school and the life of whatever community that you are involved in outside of school, whether that's academic or that's social. Okay. At this point in your high school career, you're halfway done. And, and over the, now that you've hit that summit, now is the time where you can think about what are all those experiences that you've built up over the last 2 years, and identify the things that you have really enjoyed doing, and really think about the ways in which you can take that a step further. One of the things that you'll hear colleges might be looking for is students who have both breadth and depth. You've spent the last 2 years probably exploring lots of different things, lots of different activities, lots of different academic areas that you're interested in. And now's the time to think about, how can I, engage that some more? How might I be able to take a step and possibly be a leader, or just be even more of an active contributor, whether in the classroom or outside the classroom? And that's not anything that you need anyone to really, push you on. Because if you like something and you like it enough, you're going to naturally be drawn to it and want to pursue that at length. And so as long as you're doing that, and you're doing that to the best of your ability, that's going to ultimately prepare you for success in the college search process. Okay. So at this point in time, one of the things that you can and you should be doing is just researching colleges. And if you're even looking at colleges that that might not even sound remotely familiar to you, that's great too. Because the more you read and the more you know, the more easier it will be to identify your likes and your dislikes and your preferences, and how you can take those little steps to get to the place that you're ultimately going to end up. There are a lot of different ways in which you can go about researching colleges at this point. Some of you, even as recently as today, has taken advantage of college visits here at Sandy Spring Friends School. At the beginning of the year, in one of the first class meetings, Sarah, the great dean, talked about how there's an opportunity for juniors, if it fits into your schedule, to come by and visit, visit colleges or visit us between now and mid-November. Typically, the meetings take place, for parents who may not be familiar with this, the meetings take place typically during our free time during the day, either academic help at the beginning and end of the day, or community time in the middle of the day on Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And so if a student has a free period that might overlap with one of those, or if at the end of the day and they want to come halfway through the visit or toward the end of the visit because they want to meet a rep or get some information or maybe ask a question, that's fine too. Okay? And at this point in time, it doesn't really matter what you see. Whether you go visit the school that you have a long legacy of family members who have gone to, or you go visit the school or program that you've never heard of. That might be 15 minutes from us here in Maryland, or that might be halfway across the world. And they're in the United States. Wanting to look for students who might be interested in going to school, abroad. And so, so at this point, all information is good information. Every question you ask is a great question to ask. And so that's one valuable way of looking at colleges. One of the old school methods, that a lot of your parents, may have done, or myself and Candace, when we were looking for colleges, is just getting a good old-fashioned guidebook. And going to a bookstore or ordering something from Amazon, that will give you a great summary of what college campuses are like, the culture there, and the type of students who tend to thrive there. Some of my favorite ones over the years have been the Fisk Guide to Colleges, where there's about maybe 300 different colleges in there, and they don't just give you, the stats of, here are the kids who got in, here's the stats they had, but it really gives you a sense of community. What tends to be, some of the social leanings of the campus, what are some of the standout academic programs, and the career paths that graduates have taken. That can just help you start to think more about how you find that fit. Another great book is Colleges That Change Lives, and that's a group of about 40 schools that a man named Lauren Pope wrote about, and then they formed a nonprofit where they can travel together and talk about their individual communities on their campuses. And there's lots of other books like that as well. And so going through guidebooks is also very helpful. And then another great way at this point is that throughout the fall, when the college reps are visiting our schools, our high schools individually throughout the course of the fall, they also may have local programs for the entire area where they might, go to a local high school, or they might rent out space at a hotel, and they'll invite any student, from, in that region to come and get basically like an off-campus, information session, and have a chance to ask, have a chance for you all to ask questions about the admissions process, questions about the community, questions about, flagship programs they might have. And so whenever we get information about programs like that, we'll forward that to the communications office, and they'll put that on the calendar, on our calendar online. And so that's also a great way that you might want to go about researching colleges at this point. Okay. Another thing that you should be doing now is exploring your interests. Okay, and what does that mean? So like I said earlier, it means think about the activities that that you've been involved in the last couple of years and ways in which you can deepen that involvement. Some of you might step up and want to become clerks of clubs this year. Some of you might have been volunteering for a number of years, for an organization, and you might not take a lead on a particular project. So there are lots of different ways. It doesn't matter what you do. It just matters that you're engaging in it as much as possible. Okay. Another thing that can be very valuable is collaborating with your peers. Just like we have a great community here at Sandy Spring where students work together, in order to achieve a goal. You want to do that, even more so, especially in your classes. Okay. So think about the ways in which you're not just advancing yourself, but also advancing your fellow person next to you that's learning. Those are great anecdotes that some of your teachers might choose to write about, when they write recommendations for you next year. And that's something that we'll talk more about, throughout the course of the year. And then what goes well with that is to work closely with your teachers and your mentors. Because like I just said, there's going to come a time when you might want to ask them for a reference, for college or even a summer program that you might want to, apply for this year. And the more that they know about you and the more personal things that they can say about you, the stronger that reference letter might be. Okay? Cool. Any questions about anything I've said so far? Okay. All right, good. I'm going to turn over to Candace in a second, but the last thing I want to at least mention at this point right now is just a little piece about standardized testing. Just like I said at the very beginning, you are all going to be at different places when it comes to the college search process. You will also be at different places when it comes to how you approach standardized testing. And there's lots of different avenues that you will take. One thing that you all know about, because you just did your pre-registration for it this week, is the PSAT, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. That this year for you will also count as the National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. And so if you score above a certain index, as identified by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation, you could be automatically entered into a scholarship program, for colleges once you decide where you might want to go to. So definitely do your best on the test. It will also be an indicator of how you might score on the SAT whenever you might take that. And in about a month, right before Thanksgiving, we'll actually have a program that focuses just on understanding the SAT and the ACT, how they're used within the college selection process, and ways you might want to prepare for them throughout the course of the year. Okay? Okay, very good. So, at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to Candace, and then we'll circle back at the end.
Hey everybody. So the only other thing I wanted to mention is the College Arts Night on October 29th. That'll be in Studio B. So we work with the Arts Department, and they invite both conservatories and universities with art departments, performing and visual art departments, so that you can learn about how different schools do the different majors, what's required for entry. And I like it especially because it gives you that difference between going to a school that is a dance school versus going to a university that has an amazing dance program, and you can sort of understand those differences. So please also, if you're interested in perhaps pursuing the arts or graphic design or fashion design or something that is arts related, please make sure that you come to that event. It's always great. There's always a wide range of colleges and universities there. Okay. So the other thing that's going to be big for you all is what you're doing with your summer this year. Hopefully you've been doing things in the interim. Hopefully you've been working or interning or something other than sleeping all summer. If you have not, you have the summer left. So obviously, working is an option, but there are also lots of pre-college programs and lots of enrichment programs that are on university campuses that are, we're in DC, right? So there are a rich number of opportunities. I know George Mason has a journalism program that Sarah, because she's in charge of Build-A-Zine and writing tutors, is being our liaison for. So definitely looking at summer programs. Here are some websites you can look at. And also, we're a resource for you. Every university that comes to visit has some sort of program. And they range from, whether it's an outdoor wilderness program, or it's a computer science program, or it's an arts program. Again, there's a wide range of things that you can do. The benefit is that it gets you on a college campus, helps you see what that experience is like, and also gets you out of your parents' house, which is a benefit for them. So again, other opportunities, and we recognize not everyone can do a pre-college program. I was not a kid whose family could afford to pay for tuition to go to a pre-college program because some of them cost. I worked during the summer. Some people have to babysit younger siblings. The idea is that you're doing something, that you're demonstrating responsibility, that you're demonstrating time management. Colleges understand that we all have lots of different circumstances, but whatever you're doing, they want to see you engaged. They want to know that you're a person who's going to come to their campus and engage, not just come, go to class, go home. So all of these things are valuable. I know some people are like, well, we're working and people are putting in their activities and they're like, well, I have to babysit my little sister every day after school. That's a responsibility. Put that on your resume. That matters to a school. Shows that you're trustworthy. It shows that you're responsible. So any of these things are totally valuable experiences. So Chris mentioned Maya Learning, and the students are familiar, and some of those of you with older students might be a little bit more familiar with Maya Learning. But it is our application, it's not new anymore, it's our application management system, and it's how we speak to the students and how the students speak to us about what's going on in their application process. Right now for the juniors, we have some assignments and tasks that are specifically designed to be completed during junior year that gives you a sense of things you can be working on throughout the year college readiness in terms of the application process. The one thing that several of you have been using, because I've seen you, is Maya Learning is where we list all the colleges that are coming to visit us, when and where. And I've seen some of you at the visits, which makes me super happy. So I at least know you know how to log in and find that. But I did a short little video to show you some of the other things that Maya Learning can do. And I'm gonna... Welcome to the 11th grade college night Maya Learning tutorial. So we're going to start by obviously going to mayalearning.com, and on the landing page we're going to click sign in. Every junior already has a Maya Learning account. And when we sign in, we're going to sign in with Google using our Sandy Spring email address. So we'll click that and be logged in. And once we're logged in, we're going to hit a landing page. It says Student Dashboard. It will have some basic geographical information about the student: name, address, class, email address. It'll tell us if any of the student's parents or relatives are connected to them in the system, and who their college counselor is. Currently, juniors do not have college counselors. They will not be assigned individual counselors until January, and so we encourage you to come to both Chris and Candace for questions and answers. The other thing we'll see on the dashboard is a list of activities and tasks that have been specifically assigned to be completed throughout junior year. As you're doing these tasks, you simply check the box, and it'll show up as completed and be removed from your list, or moved to the bottom of your list. The other thing is, if we go to career, we'll see that one of the tasks is to build a resume. All of these are hyperlinks that will take you to where you need to go in order to complete that task. If you don't have a resume, if you click the resume button, you'll be taken to a resume builder where you can either upload your current resume or go through the steps that Maya Learning provides to create a resume, and then it will format it for you. In addition, in the portfolio tab, we see galleries. And galleries is a great place to add any artwork, a link to a website that you might be working on, or other items that will be a part of your college application that you need to store. Once you've completed all of that, we'll head back to the student dashboard and see that there are a number of surveys. If we click on Explore, we'll see the different surveys, which are all designed to help you figure out areas of interest, things you might want to study, careers you might want to pursue, which will in turn help you figure out what majors you want to pursue, and therefore what colleges you might want to attend. There's 5 different profiles, but if I go down to 5 different surveys, but if I go down to career plan, under assessments, I'll see I've already completed an assessment. So I want to view those results. So I'm going to view previous results. And this will tell me a lot of things about myself, and you can take your time reading them. But essentially, these are where my strengths lie in linguistics and interpersonal skills. Based on that, they're giving me a list of jobs that I could consider pursuing. And so, psychology teachers appeals to me, so I'm going to click on psychology teachers. And it takes me to more information about the career. It tells me what the actual job is. It tells me what kind of additional training, what kind of activities I'll be doing on the job, what academic knowledge, what careers are also related to that. What's the average salary for that job? We obviously want to make money. The view for potential growth by state also lets me know where are the states that are in most need of this particular skill. So do I have to move to Iowa in order to grow professionally and find a job? That's what potential growth by state will tell me. Also tells me what degrees I need. And here it will tell me
based on the program and major, what colleges will offer me that major. So I'm looking for psychology general, and I'll just click view colleges. I'm automatically directed to the college search function, where it's already narrowed it down from the 35,000 colleges out there to 1,600. But I want to narrow it down even further. I'm interested in staying on the East Coast, so I'm going to say Mid-Atlantic, New England, and South. So now I'm down to 600 colleges. For type of school, I'm interested in a four-year college, public or private. And I don't want to be in a city, but I'm okay with a town or the suburbs. And I think medium size will be good for me. I click all those boxes, I click done. And I've got a list of 49 colleges I can look through. So I'm going to select College of William and Mary here down in Williamsburg, Virginia. And so it gives me an overview, a brief overview of the campus, very brief information. It's a four-year university. They offer doctorates, they offer research opportunities, bachelor's, master's, etc. There's a link to the website. And there's also a couple of videos being hosted by the school that give me some sense of what it looks like on campus. If I click on campus community, I'll learn even more about that. School is mostly undergraduates, 6,000, which is a nice size for me, 2,000 graduate students. And most of the students, the overwhelming majority of the students are full-time. Mostly female, 45% male, 62% in-state, which makes sense because we know the College of William and Mary is a state school. Also 6% international. It further breaks down who are those students that are there? What is their ethnic background? So I look at this and I'm like, well, I want to know more about how hard the school is to get into. It sounds interesting thus far. So I'll look at admissions and it'll give me information about the deadlines. They require an SAT or an ACT. They accept Coalition and the Common App. Their acceptance rate is around 37%. Gives me average test scores, the middle 50%. It also tells me down here what our school's performance has been in the last few years. And up here I can see GPA versus SAT score. What was the outcome? If I click this button, it'll show me GPA versus ACT score, and again, what is the outcome? So that I can then begin setting goals around where I need to test and what I need to do academically in the classroom to make myself competitive for this college. You can also find more information about how much it costs, how many students are getting their need met, what is the average financial aid award, keeping in mind that an average means some kids are getting $500, some kids are getting a full ride. What sports they offer, degrees and majors, etc. I've looked at this school, I've decided, you know what, William & Mary sounds interesting, I'm going to hold on to it and maybe come back to it later. I click this heart, and then when I go down to colleges considering, I see the College of William & Mary. And that just sits there until I'm ready to start deciding where I'm going to apply and where I'm not going to apply, which will happen in senior year.
Test on PSAT scores and current GPA, so it won't be the most accurate. But then again, as we go through the process, as you get closer, as you start taking those tests, it'll become more and more accurate. And obviously, also, the more data we have from last year's class and current classes, the better a picture you guys will get. The second thing was, in this account, you'll notice that there is, there it is. There's family connections. In order for parents to get access to their students' accounts, it's totally possible. Just need you to email me with your name and your preferred, whatever email address you want to use, and we'll get it, and we'll send you an invitation. And you'll be able to track sort of what has your student accomplished, what have we done what we're supposed to do in terms of like our recommendation letters submitted, et cetera, et cetera. And you can also suggest schools for your student, which I'm sure they'll love. But you know, you can do your own research as well. But yeah, it's just an email and then we send out an invitation. Any questions about Maya Learning? Yes.
Okay, I have a few. One, was that video like up somewhere on Final Site or something where it's accessible?
So it is not on Final Site. I guess I have very limited access to Final Site, but we will email it out and we can put it on the College Counseling website. That's not a big deal.
We can figure that out. This was just step one.
Yeah.
Getting it to you is the next step.
My next question was, can you pick more than one like area of interest at a time? So
Absolutely.
you have to narrow it down to some areas.
You can pick as many as you'd like.
All right.
Yep. Any other questions? Awesome. All right, so again, because we will be doing so much of the application, the actual application process through Maya Learning, it really is the best place to store the information. It really is a good and improving search function. And the more that you have information in there, the better that we can also advise you when it comes time to have those one-on-one meetings, because we can see what you're doing, we can see where your interests are, and then we can use that to help guide you in terms of where you should be looking. So it really is helpful for you guys to get familiar and start using that now. In terms of researching colleges and attending SSFS meetings, obviously you're all here tonight. We're going to have a meeting in November, and then we'll have, in January, we'll have like a big junior college kickoff. But in addition to the meetings we're having, and we all want you to attend those, there's going to be a college fair in the spring at Georgetown Prep that we all want you to attend. There's going to be, like Chris said, regional college visits, right? So someone might be doing something at the Bethesda Marriott, and we'll push that out. And the more you talk to colleges, the more you hear from reps, the more you'll get familiar with the language that they speak. The language of college is different. They use terms that no one else uses. They talk about things that no one else talks about. They ask students to talk about themselves in ways that no one asks them to talk about themselves. And so the more familiar and comfortable you are with it, the better you'll be at it.
And and even though you might not be ready to buy the plane ticket just yet, it's also a good time to start thinking about once you start to understand what college you might want to see, think about when you might want to go see them. After taking the PSAT last year, some of you might have already been receiving emails and letters from colleges about programs on campus. After you take this next go around, it will just even ramp up more, and you'll start hearing about open houses, and even more programs happening in the area. So, so once you get to the second half of the year, look at your calendar, and see and think about when might be a good time for you to go and visit some school. Whether it's locally, or maybe it's another place in the country. For those of you who don't reside in the United States, you can also talk to your parents about possibly going to do some visits before you might go home for the summer, and how that might work. And so, if you have any questions about campus visits and how to organize them, that's something else that Candace and I are here to help you with in terms of thinking about, okay, I know I want to see one school, what might be 2 or 3 other schools nearby I can see easily. Okay.
And colleges also in the spring have fly-in programs for juniors, or open houses or overnights for juniors. So that's also something that we would be able to help you with. And keeping in mind that for most summer opportunities, the applications actually open in December, January. So it feels like, oh, it's something for the summer, I can wait. You can't wait. You need to be looking for summer opportunities really after Christmas, particularly if you're trying to do it on a college campus.
So you'll take the PSAT soon. One of the things that we're also trying to organize right now is being able to offer you a practice ACT, and once we can nail that down, we'll get that information for you as well, so you can have a good comparison for it. If you're an international student that has been in ESOL classes since being here, or if English is not your native language, you're going to want to look at the requirements, for admission, because a number of colleges might want you to submit an English proficiency test. Many of you are familiar with TOEFL, but there are other options out there that many colleges will take. One of the newer ones is the Duolingo English test that more and more colleges are starting to accept, as well as the IELTS test. And they don't care. There is not one test that they prefer more than the other. Just like the SAT and ACT, colleges just care about the test that works best for you and will present you in the best way. And so if you've taken one test and it didn't really do as well as you thought, and you might want to try another one because the format works better for you, do that. And whichever score best presents you and can help your application, that's the test that you should use for admission to the school. But you just want to make sure you read the admission requirements and make sure that it's something that they will accept. Again, like we said earlier, next month we'll have a program that will talk about standardized testing in more depth.
And then so we said test a lot, but I also want to let you know that there are test optional schools and schools that don't accept testing at all. That is not true for the TOEFL. Schools are going to want you to demonstrate English proficiency, but for the SAT and ACT, the number of test optional schools continues to grow. It's nearing 600 colleges and universities, and we're talking George G.W., Jockey Dickinson, we're talking, Bowdoin, Bates. So some really elite colleges and universities that are moving away from standardized testing. So if that's not your jam, that is okay.
Yes. And if you want to look at the full list of colleges that are test optional, you want to go to FAIRTEST, FAIRTEST.org. FAIRTEST.org. You can just Google that, and they'll take you to the website, and you can see the full comprehensive list of colleges that have different options for tests you can submit for admission. And like Candace referenced earlier, our next big, overview of the admission process program is going to be on January the 8th. At that program, we'll actually invite a guest speaker from a college admission office to come and talk to you about the process from their perspective, and like Candace just referenced, help you understand what the language is so that you can better navigate that and also understand more about what colleges are looking for when you're reviewing applications, and give you a chance to really dialogue about what's currently happening in college admissions and how you can best help. Okay. This is just a slide with some different resources on it, that you should be familiar with. The College Board is always, one of the premier websites you want to go to, as it has resources for not just the application process, but also financial aid, how to search colleges. So that's one. The ACT, the TOEFL, Duolingo, all the standardized testing that we talked about, and as well as MyLearn. And at this point,
I just wanted to say,
that's fine.
before we take any questions, I did want to mention just, this is lot of information, and I'm sure once you go home and digest it, you'll probably have questions. I just do want to put out there that the seniors are in the midst of applying, that November 1 is a major deadline, and while it is always our intention to be responsive, you might have to be a little patient with us, because, you know, time is of the essence for them. And so I just want to put that out there. Not that you're not valuable, and not that you're not important, and not that we don't want to respond.
Right.
But we do want to give them the same attention that we're going to give you
A
when
year
it's
from
your
now.
time.
Yes, we'll tell that to the class of 2022 when it's time for them. Okay, so at this point in time, we'll take questions. Go right ahead.
So I saw a really long list of colleges that are coming to campus, and I was a little confused about, do they just meet with kids during class day? Because, for example, if you don't have a free period, or, you know what I mean, kind of hard then to actually go to those, right?
So the afternoon meetings are all during academic health.
So they all come during academic?
No.
No.
So the afternoon meetings are during academic health. The students should be free to come to those. The morning meetings start at 8, so they start before the first class. So what we try to do is ask the students to come in, introduce themselves. The reps are always here a little bit early. So come in, introduce themselves, fill out an information card, and then that gets them in the system, and the rep will send an email or say, I'm going to be in your area. So no, it's not ideal for juniors because they don't get excused. Seniors have a little bit of leeway in terms of they can come late to class. But yeah, that's kind of, yeah.
The one thing I will say,
Is they're just sitting there all day? Is that how it is? Or is
No, they're there for 30 minutes with a group of students, and it's like it's a small group.
so you just drop in?
Yeah.
yes, so generally when colleges are visiting during the day, they'll be hitting about 4 to 5 different high schools over the course of the school day, and then in most cases have a college fair in the evening or a program they're playing on their own at night. And so, yeah, so that's the typical, you know, the typical life of a college mission officer. They'll be out traveling. Some might be out 3 weeks, some might be out 8 weeks, you know, away from the office. But trying to get in front of as many different high schools, talk with the students, but then also, you know, if their schedule allows, spend some time with both Candace and I, you know, to talk about updates that we have going on here at Sandy Spring and the updates happening on their campuses. You know, of course we love it when, you know, we have, you know, reps that we've known for years and are familiar with that they don't always have to stay as long. But oftentimes because college admissions is a young field, you know, they might be new. And so after getting the student perspective, you know, then we want to make sure they understand who we are and why, you know, our school might be a good fit for them. So yeah, so there's a lot happening with the visits when they come. But if the student can't make it, you know, and so if the student says, you know what, I really want to hear about Hamilton, but I can't come because I got a test in that period, can you get a brochure for me? We're always happy to do that. You know, get a brochure, get their business card, and then pass it back and allow the student to follow up with the rep as well. So that's awesome. Go ahead.
So in my learning, as the students are doing their research, how do you have any tips besides liking a college on how they should be bucketing their selection?
Yes. Yes, we do. I think when they're looking, I think most juniors, once they get in there, they're going to see they don't really have a sense of what college is. And so I think it's really thinking about what are the things that I like to do, what are the things I like about Sandy Spring, what are the things I don't like about Sandy Spring, what are the things I would like to explore, and finding, once you have those things, looking for those things in colleges and universities. Obviously, I think that getting on some campuses is really going to help accelerate, and by getting on campuses, I mean go to College Park, go to Georgia. Like, you don't have to go very far, fortunately, to get on a college campus, to see some different campuses and what they look like. But I think it really, at this point, is really about, like, the list should be getting longer for juniors, right? So if a junior came to me and was like, I have 20 schools, I'd be like, great. If a senior came to me with 20 schools, I'd be like, please have a seat. So yeah, it's about, I like this thing. Let me see if this school also has that. They don't have it, but they have this other thing. So I'm going to put both would be schools on the list, and I'll just keep building.
Yeah, and in the second half of the year, once we start having our one-on-one meetings, a lot of that will all start to make more sense. So like Candace said, if a kid has 20 schools right now, awesome. And when we start helping them unpack what that means, that will then start to help them narrow and focus, throughout the course of the year. And right next to me.
Does my learning also have the connection between community college, and which community colleges work with which colleges?
They do not have articulation agreements listed. That's a great question. Yes, they do not. You'd have to go to the school website to see their articulation agreement.
You said the colleges speak a different lingo. I was just wondering, could you give us a concrete example on kind of my curiosity speak, what do you mean by that? You said they communicate differently.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that.
Absolutely. So a college might ask a student, so colleges use the term, the same as we do, right? They'll use the term, we do a holistic read. Right? And you're like, okay, what does that mean, right? That means we're looking at test scores and grades because we ask for test scores and grades, but we're looking at these other factors as well, right? We're looking at what are your teachers saying about it? What are your activities and how engaged are you? Did you just start doing things in 10th grade or 11th grade, or were you doing things all along? I think colleges talk a lot about it's hard to describe. I think just the way that they view students from an evaluative standpoint is different than how we view them from sort of like a growth standpoint.
Yeah. Or even sometimes when you get to the stage of interviews, right? So you won't be doing interviews right now, but maybe toward the end of junior year and certainly over the summer or senior year, they'll say, well, yeah, I want to have an interview, and is it evaluative, or is it informative? What does that mean? How does that work into the process? How does that work into the process? And so it's just that there's just lots of different terms that you'll hear, and the first time you hear it, you might go, what does that mean? And then as you go to more campuses and hear more reps, you'll hear them saying it over and over again. They'll say, oh, okay, now it's not unfamiliar anymore. Or when we get to the portion of deciding what program you're going to apply under. Are you going to apply for early decision? Are you going to apply for early action? Or priority? What does that mean? So it's just that there's just lots of terms that as the professionals, we hear all the time, and we just know what they're talking about. And for some of you, it's the first time that you've heard it, or because maybe when you were applying to college yourself, it wasn't used back then, so it's like, what does that mean? So that's what we mean by language. Yeah. And then right behind you.
Can you talk about the difference between the SAT and the ACT and, sort of what students, what might want to choose at taking the ACT versus the SAT?
Sure. So that's going to be exactly what we're going to talk about next month. So I'll give you a preview on November 20. So yeah, so the main difference is the structure and slightly the timing. There used to be a huge difference, between the two in terms of what they tested and how the approach to the test was. But within the last 10 years, the SAT did a major redesign. Most recently in 2016, where they really moved from like the verbal and the math section and having like SAT words you have to study for, and if you know this word bank, you'll increase your chances of getting in, or doing well on the test, as an example. To really looking at what are some of the things that students actually learn in high school and the skills they learn in high school, and how do we assess that? And so some of the biggest differences is that the SAT has reading and writing as one core area and math as another core area. And they test on those areas and you get a combined score that could go up to 1,600. The ACT tests 4 main areas: English, reading, math, and science reasoning on a scale of 1 to 36. And then they average your performance on each of those to give you a composite score that at the highest will be at a 36. And so sometimes, so that's just one of the biggest differences. And usually when a student looks at both tests, sometimes they just know that the structure of this test works better for me than the other, because with the ACT, it's one subject and then you're done with it. You know, it's reading, I don't see that reading section ever again. Math, never again. SAT, you gotta be nimble back and forth. It's like you do a section of reading, you do a section of math. Section of reading, section of math. Because all brains are wired differently, some students don't like that. And so those are some of the main differences between the two. And there are score correlations between what one score in the SAT is and how that correlates to the ACT.
I mean, the good news is the colleges don't care. If it's college-shaped testing, they'll take either test. They want you to present your best face, so they want to take the test that you do the best on.
Yeah. But the program next month, we're actually a testing tutor, who's going to come and go into much more depth about what these different tests look like, and also the ways the students can prepare for those tests as well.
I didn't see a finance night. How do we pay for this night? Is that coming soon?
We'll work on that. Yes, we can.
There isn't a finance night currently on the calendar, to answer your question. We're doing a financial aid workshop for the senior parents,
Because they're about to start applying for it.
because they're starting to apply for financial aid, but that is certainly something that we can add to the calendar. That's,
Yeah, sort of tips and strategies and kind of
Yeah.
insider information.
yeah.
Okay. Very good. Other questions? Okay. So if there are no more questions right now, that concludes our program. We're very excited to begin working with you, in the coming months. And like Andy said, certainly if you do have questions, please don't hesitate to ask them and let us know. Please don't hesitate to send your students in. But again, please be patient at this point in time, because there's a lot that we have to deal with the seniors right now. And we look forward to talking to you more and working with you. Okay? Thank you.